Hello, everybody. This is Kyrix, and I'm here with something new. This is Kyrix's Star Wars audiobook reviews, actually. I have, for the moment, well, for this book, I had a trial for Audible.com where I could just download a free audiobook of my choice. I currently have a 3-month reduced membership fee that I'm intending to use. And I figured, they've just restarted the Star Wars canon, the expanded universe canon, that is. And there's few enough books right now that I can basically get in the ground floor of all of them. Now, there are a few more than I thought there were. When I did this, I'm like, oh, well, Tarkin was the first book announced, and then there was Lords of the Sith. There's something like 8 to 12 books out right now. And I can get one of them a month for free. Completely legal. My book. I have this book. It's not like some illegal download or anything. This is mine from Audible.com. So I spent the past month or so listening to Tarkin, in between grinding sessions, whatnot, A little bit up at McDonald's with my headphones on. And first we're going to talk about what I thought going into this. Now, I'm going to tell you I had zero enthusiasm to read this book. I really did not ever intend to read this book. I had no particular drive or ambition to read this book. Because unlike a lot of Star Wars people, I don't like the Empire. You meet a lot of people who like Star Wars. Oh, the Empire's so cool. Oh, Darth Vader. Oh, the Stormtroopers, TIE Fighters, Star Destroyers, blah, 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 Empire. No, not me. I don't like the Empire. I like Thrawn, but then again, everybody likes Thrawn. I do like Palpatine, because he's just so completely, unspeakably evil that it comes right back around, But I've never cared for Tarkin. I thought he was a very drab villain. I thought he was a very boring character. He always struck me as basically, and keep in mind, I say this as a kid, or as having seen this as a kid, rather, that he's just a mean old man. That's all I got out of him. He's just a mean old man in the neighborhood. Now, obviously, there's more to him than that. This is a man who holds rank equivalent to Darth Vader. And I say equivalent because on the Death Star, he would tell things to Vader, and Vader would do them. But he never ordered Vader to do anything. He just asked him, and Vader, out of respect, or just the fact that they were relative equals, did it. Now, in the old expanded universe, they talked about Tarkin being the guy who came up with the Tarkin doctrine, strangely enough. Rule by fear, don't beat people up. Beat up one person and tell them, yeah, we'll beat you all up unless you listen to us, which is a smart thing. I'm not necessarily saying it's a good thing, but damn, it's a smart thing. It's the concept of mutually assured destruction. It's what keeps us from nuclear war right now. Except in this case, it's a case of, if you bloody our nose, we're going to wipe out your species. So don't hit us, and we won't obliterate you. And it doesn't really work because rebellion. But so I didn't really expect much. I'm thinking the reason, by the way, you're thinking, well, it sounds like you hate the concept of this book. Why'd you get it? Free book. And again, remember, when I got this book at the time, before I looked up what books were in the series, I thought this entire canon consisted of 2 things: this and Lords of the Sith. So I got this. I'm like, well, we'll start with Tarkin, And I figured, well, maybe this will give me the insight. Maybe this will make me like Tarkin as a character. So now as we get into the book, I'm going to tell you it didn't. Now, I don't hate him as a character, but he didn't win me over. That being said, he did change a couple of my preconceived notions in the fact that he is a bit of a badass. I always figured him as a give orders kind of guy, but he is completely capable of carrying out his own shit. Here be spoilers. It talks about his childhood on Iriadu, which is a world whose name I've heard in the Star Wars expanded stuff, but never really focused on, I guess. basically he came from a rich family who was instrumental in taming the planet. Apparently the wildlife in Eriadu outside the cities is particularly ferocious. And at one point his parents basically asked him, oh, well, what would happen to you if we were to just toss you out in the woods? Because apparently that's the thing the Tarkins do, is they take their teenage sons and put them out in this place called, like, the Carrion Plateau or something like that. It's this super reserve that the Tarkins own, where they basically kept the planet untouched, kept the wildlife there, etc. Their whole family owns it. And they basically send them there, and if they die, they weren't worth having in the first place. They needed... And as cruel as it is, I do understand the mentality of it. It's the case of, you need to know why our technology is so important by taking it from you. You need to know why we have a social food chain by putting you in the real food chain, etc. You know, they basically say, you're a Tarkin, and that makes you better than everyone, but not because you're a Tarkin are you better than everyone. It's because of what a Tarkin is that you're better than everyone. Basically, to sum it up, he's not... Their mentality is, Wilhoof Tarkin, is not better. Or Wilhoof, whatever. We're going to call him Tarkin. He is not better because of his family, but because of what his family will make him go through. And if he survives, that proves that, yeah, I'm better than you because you wouldn't have made it through this, etc. He has an awesome ship, the Carrion Spike. It's kind of a Mary Sue ship, to be honest, but that's okay. It's not like there's a fleet of them, and it's just a Corvette, so while it could be really good for terrorist activities, as it will be used for, it's not a super weapon, you know? It basically has this stealth system. And the whole thing, if I could describe it as anything, it reminds me of a buddy cop movie between Tarkin and Vader, who you can see on the cover there. That is the actual cover. The narrator is Ewan Morton, and he does a great Tarkin voice. And there are sound effects in the book, like laser sounds, etc. Whenever Vader's on screen, as I make quote marks with my fingers, you hear his respirator constantly, you know, which can get a little distracting, but so can Vader. James Luceno did the book. I've heard lots of other books by him and read a couple of them as well. Very good author, James Luceno. I don't know if I'd quite put him on at the same tier I'd put Timothy Zahn, but he's still a damn good Star Wars writer. He's wrote a lot of good books, especially Clone Wars stuff. Love his Clone Wars stuff. Very good writer. If anyone had a shot at making me like Tarkin, it was this guy. Didn't quite do it, but at least I respect Tarkin now. But yeah, it plays out kind of like a buddy cop movie, and Tarkin is interesting in the book. He's not gonna be one of my favorite characters. Oh my god, Tarkin, oh, fangasm. No, but I don't kind of wince like, oh, Tarkin, why does everyone treat him like he's such a badass? Because he does have some legitimate badass credentials. I won't take that from him. To me, though, the real meat of this book is the other two stories, because there are 3 stories happening at once. There's the Tarkin and Vader story as they try and recover his ship, which has been hijacked. There's the story of the hijackers, and then there's the story of all the political crap going on Coruscant. With, because Palpatine has basically encouraged his officers to be at each other's throats and jockey for position. The idea being, if they're competing against each other, they can't band together and overthrow him. Which is how the Nazis worked. And that's not even an analogy. Oh, they're calling them. No, that was deliberately invoked, and that was something Hitler actually did. Was he was so obsessed with holding power that he basically put all of his officers against each other, so that none of them could ever band together and overrule him or overthrow him. Which, if you've seen Valkyrie and read up on some of the plots to assassinate him, was a very real threat. You know, they did not want him in power. Anyway, call it my burgeoning political junkie, but I liked the Coruscant scenes a lot. And to a lesser extent, I liked the hijackers, because they're very interesting characters. They got this great dynamic between them, you know. But I did enjoy watching Tarkin and Vader, because the whole time, Tarkin's basically trying to figure out, is this really who I think it is? Because he suspects that Vader's Anakin. He never really arrives at the conclusion that Vader is Anakin, but let's just say he's about 80% certain. He's all but willing to put money on it. And then again, as rich as he is, he might be willing to put money on it, because what's he got fucking lose? So this little video doesn't really have a format yet. Maybe someday I'll put in a rating system, but I do enjoy the writing. The reading of it was very good. Of course, some of the pronunciation seemed a bit off from some of the stuff I've heard, but that's a sci-fi audiobook for you, because there's no pronunciation guide. You can listen to I've heard, granted it's not in here, but I've heard the planet Chandrila as Chandrila, 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 etc. You know, there's so many ways to say things. So what did I think? Maybe a 7 out of 10. If you're a fan of the Empire, if you like Tarkin, if you like Vader, this is a good book for you. It's a great book for you. I don't happen to be that person. And this is pre-Rebel Alliance. There is no real Rebel Alliance. You're not going to spot any of those characters. You might spot a couple famous military people, like there was Screed mentioned by name. I happen to know him from the Star Wars Rebellion game. Not the Rebels show, but the old Rebellion game for the computer from like 90-something, I guess. You'll see Yularen. Yularen is mentioned. I don't think he does anything in this, but Isard is in here. There's a couple name-drop famous names that are being reintroduced into the canon. And that's another thing, is you're going to see a lot of writers reintroduce things from the old canon into the new canon, like interdictor starships and so on and so forth. Do I recommend it? Sure. It's not. Let me put it this way: if I had money to burn, like, you know, the $20 so this book costs on Audible, I could do worse than buying this. That's not exactly huge praise, but then again, like I said, I'm a Clone Wars guy. I like the Clone Wars. I'm not as much a Rebellion era guy. Don't get me wrong, there's some fantastic Rebellion books. Truce at Bakura was a good one. Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor was fantastic. Millennium Falcon, which technically that's post-New Jedi Order, but it's the Rebellion characters, you know. But I love that one. There's so many good books. There really are. Unfortunately, none of them happened anymore. But this one did. This one, if you... Okay, and I think it's in December or so. The Force Awakens is going to come out. And if you read this book, the events in this book happened as far as the movies are concerned. You know? And there is a Force Awakens book, and I will be getting it. I will not be watching it before I see the movie, so guess I don't want to spoil it. This is one of the books that happened. Lords of the Sith is one of the books that happened. Every book that I'm going to mention on here, unless it has a specific tag otherwise, happened in the official Disney canon, you know? And I want to ask a question now. Because Disney owns Star Wars, does that mean that Leia and Amidala are now Disney princesses? Because that would fucking rule, you know? I would not mind seeing Leia Organa and Padme Amidala on the same stage, so to speak, as Ariel and Belle and Jasmine and so on. Now, shameless plug. Those of you who do not have a membership with Audible.com can expect to pay $28 there for this book. Those of you, like myself, who have one can get it for $19.60 or a single credit, which you get at least every month, depending on your membership. Some of them get more than that, you know, but you pay more. It's a good book. They rated it about, looks like 4.5 stars. If I had to do a star system, I'd give it 3.75 to a 4. You know, I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't think I'll listen to it again anytime soon. One of these days, I might marathon the whole thing in order, because it's mine. But that's going to be a year or so off, unless one of the books just sets him up so good and I have to get back into this, you know. Because there are books that I reread constantly, like Shatterpoint and The Cestus Deception, and especially Yoda Dark Rendezvous, which, again, books didn't happen. I hate that. I loved those books, but they didn't happen. So, Maybe they'll be rescued back into the canon or replaced with similar books, but we'll see. So, Star Wars, Tarkin, by James Luceno, narrated by Ewan Morton. Pick it up on Audible, go to your bookstore and buy it, whatever. It's a good book, you know. I mean, just, again, don't take my damned by faint praise approach as this being a shitty book, because it wasn't. It just wasn't the source material that I particularly enjoy. You know, I've never liked Tarkin as a character. This book had a massive uphill struggle to make me care about Tarkin. And you know what? I didn't wince when Tarkin showed back up. I didn't fast forward. If I were reading the book, I wouldn't skip ahead to when Tarkin was done. So, if nothing else, it made me sit through the Tarkin part of the story, which is important. You know? And this is pre-Death Star in the sense that the Death Star was still being made. You get to see Tarkin's real rise to power. At the point in the book, he's a Moff. You will see the concept of a Grand Moff and why he was referred to as governor in the movies instead of Grand Moff, even though he was one. Apparently, they describe it as officially to the Emperor, he's a Grand Moff. To similarly ranked people, he's a Grand Moff. To the entire rest of the galaxy, he's just Governor Tarkin, you know, in sense of title. So, this was a rambling, shitty review. I have a lot to learn, and I hope you'll bear with me. But this was my take on Tarkin, and I hope you don't let me dissuade you from reading it, because it is a good book. I just didn't like it because I don't like who it's about, you know. If this had been about Thrawn, for example, and been similar in tone, or about Palpatine, or, you know, someone like, say, Yularen from the Clone Wars thing, because he was a Empire guy. If it had been one of them, I'd have liked it a lot more, but it was about Tarkin. And I didn't really learn very much about Tarkin that I didn't already know. So basically what this book does, 90% of it, as far as the Tarkin stuff goes, is to reintroduce the former Tarkin into the current canon. So if you're expecting a whole new side of Tarkin, no, it's pretty much the Tarkin from the old books and the movie. So, which isn't a bad thing, because now it's official again, you know? Anyway, look forward to my next audiobook review. I don't know what it will be yet. I'm leaning kind of heavily towards Lords of the Sith, but I'm going to go on TV Tropes and look up the list and see what each one's about. There's another one that involves Ventress and Quinlan Vos that I'm thinking about. But Lords of the Sith has me real intrigued. There's a very good chance that that'll be my next one. And whether it's my next one or not, it will be one of these. So anyway, see ya. Bye-bye.